Probably the simplest Batmobile ever used, the 1943 model holds a special place in Batmobile history, since it's the vehicle that started it all. The 1943 Batmobile model was first featured in the Columbia serial Batman movies that ran each week. The series chose the 1939 Cadillac Series 75 convertible, originally designed by Harley Earl of General Motors. At the next and final serial run for Batman introduced a new Batmobile. Like the previous version, this new Batmobile was a stock automobile that came straight out of a factory, though the series added the Batcave and Wayne Manor to the series to bring the Batman universe to life. It didn't have the budget to trick out the Batmobile. Ford's 1949 Mercury convertible was selected to take over for the 1939 Cadillac Series 75. As there weren't any modifications to the vehicle, the convertible top was used again to signal when it was the Batmobile and when it was Bruce Wayne's personal car. Over the filming of the show, the Mercury was switched out 6 times due to the car's poor handling when cornering. The combination of power and inadequate handling resulted in the car getting wrecked several times. After the 1943 and 1949 Batmobiles, fans had to wait a while before Batman hit the small or big screen again. When fans finally got their wish in 1966, the Batmobile they saw would blow the previous versions out of the water. In fact, many now consider the 1966 Batmobile to be the first real Batmobile. The first modified Batmobile appeared in the 1966-68 Batman television series and the 1966 Batman movie. Adam West's iconic performance as Batman brought Gotham and the Batmobile to a whole new audience. With the star power of West, the people behind the show knew they had to have a stunning vehicle to complement him. As West's Batmobile was the first to sport multiple gadgets and modifications, many consider his to be the prime version of it. The design for the car ultimately fell to George Barris, a legendary American designer of classic Hollywood cars, who was given the job of designing the car within a deadline of 3 weeks. To come up with the design for the vehicle, Barris drew from Ford's 1955 Lincoln Futura concept car, which was never released to the public. The baseline design of the Futura, with its bubble canopies and long fins, made for a perfect base for the Batmobile. Along with the base design of the Futura, Barris added modifications that would add to the visual theme of Batman. The car was painted black with red trim to really make the car pop on screen. Finally, the red Batman logo on the doors of the vehicle and in the center of the wheels tied the whole design together. Barris would go on to add other gadgets such as rockets, lasers, a computer, a police beacon and a telephone. The car also had a chain splice placed on the nose and a couple of parachutes installed in the rear. With the parachutes, the car could make a complete 180-degree turn with ease. When it comes to combat, this Batmobile was ready to take on Gotham's greatest villains. To create coverage and obscure vision, Batman could use the vehicle's smoke emitter. If a villain was chasing after Batman, or if he needed to stop a car, the mail spreader was a top gadget. In order to do some serious damage to another vehicle or obstacle, the car featured a battering ram. With all of these modifications, the vehicle was a worthy companion. 1989 Batmobile, the Keaton Mobile. Tim Burton helmed the 1989 Batman film that brought a darker tone to the iconic character, far more than any of the cartoons and films in the past. As such, the 1989 Batmobile was designed with a new take on the series in mind. With the movie's more serious tone, Anton Furst, the Batmobile designer, wanted the vehicle to have a darker feel as well. He got rid of the red trim and the bright red Batman logo, and the Batmobile went completely black. Instead of an exotic Ferrari or Lamborghini that fans had become accustomed to in the cartoons and comic books, this version of the Batmobile took on the appearance of a car designed for drag racing. With its skinny sleek design, the long vehicle looked as if it was ready to break the sound barrier. This Batmobile was not the type that could hide in plain sight, but with its speed, Batman could navigate around with such quickness that it didn't much matter. Michael Keaton's Batman, already iconic on its own, became even more synonymous with the franchise due to the vehicle's bold appearance. Along with its speed and new look, the vehicle had even more modifications, so it was always prepared for a fight. The Batmobile had retractable shielding, self-driving and machine guns all incorporated into the vehicle. Additionally, the Batmobile featured shin breakers on the sides, bombs, disc launchers and an implement that could lift the car and let it turn 180 degrees on a dime. Batman Returns, the movie following the 1989 Batman, used the same Batmobile. The new movie showed off the vehicle's ability to turn into the Bat-missile, helping Keaton's Batman make a quick escape from the police. Moreover, the animated series that immediately followed the 1989 Batman would go on to largely draw from this Batmobile's design. The designer of this Batmobile Anton first wanted the car to match the darker take of the Dark Knight and also to have it different from any previous versions. Twin Impala chassis, a Chevy V8 engine, and a custom-built fabrication body were the foundations used to make the car. The wheels were custom-built and finished up with Mickey Thompson's racing tires. The new design element included the replacement of the Bat mask with a jet turbine intake with huge sweeping fenders to its sides. On the rear side, cold air intakes were mounted before the rear fenders. A pair of short sculpted fins flanked the rounded rear. The driver's cabin resembled an aircraft cockpit in instrumentation, and the passenger side also had a self-diagnostics system and a voice command recognition system. Other gadgets included side-mounted disc launchers, spherical bombs, shin breakers mounted on the sides and a central foot for lifting the car and allowing to turn 180 degrees. This TV series came the same year as the second Batman movie. The Batmobile, designed by Shane Poindexter, combined elements from the movies and comics, and with the freedom of being an animated vehicle featured a whole host of gadgets. It was not the most aesthetic design with its blunt nose and the slatted grills. The gadgets were numerous, ranging from wheel slasher hubs, a missile rack, oil and smoke dispensers, tear gas dispensers, ejection seats, titanium alloy on the wheels and body panels, reversible jet exhausts, and even a shield mode to protect the vehicle when it is unattended. The technology fitted here may not have factored in engineering concepts, but it did inspire future takes of the Batmobile. The third installment in the Batman and Batman Returns movie series, Batman Forever, took the series in a different direction. The films were directed by someone new, and with the new director came a new designer, Barbara Ling. To put her own vision for the Batmobile front and center, Ling decided to craft a vehicle that had a more organic feel to it. Ling still incorporated some of the old model's designs, keeping the split cockpit canopy, the skinny design and the separate fenders, but overall, the car was transformed. Instead of the nondescript design of the 1989 Batmobile that didn't feature any Batman logos on it, the 1995 Batmobile incorporated the Bat logo onto each wheel. Instead of turning with the wheels, the logo would stay upright, constantly displaying Batman's symbol. Most noticeable about the new design was the new ribs along the side and the bat-like wings that were attached to the back of the vehicle. Of all of the vehicles in the franchise, this one looked most like a living, breathing bat. As weaponry and modifications went, this Batmobile was fairly minimalistic. It could lock all four of its wheels, which allowed the vehicle to move from side to side quickly. It also employed a grappling hook and could transform itself, so it could climb up walls and other vertical structures. However, Riddler destroyed this Batmobile by putting explosives in the vehicle's cockpit. Viewer reception to this Batmobile was fairly lukewarm, with some even considering it ugly. The biggest criticism was that it looked like a car that was designed like a plastic toy, which turns out it was. Batman and Robin, the final installment in the series that began in 1989, attempted to end the series with a bang. To make up for the rather dull response to the 1995 Batmobile, Ling went back to the drawing board and tried to design a Batmobile worthy of a new Batman, played by George Clooney. While the film's quality is questionable, with some considering it the worst Batman film, Ling's new Batmobile is widely considered an improvement over the previous one. She achieved a more attractive look by taking inspiration from classic roadsters, such as the Jaguar E-Type. This Batmobile could go up to 140 miles per hour, had a length of 30 feet long, and utilized an open-air cockpit. To really differentiate it from the previous Batmobile, Ling removed the organic-looking ribs from the sides of the vehicle. New design features included 3 small exhaust nozzles on both of the rear fenders, separating itself from the sole jet exhaust featured on the previous versions. Though the vehicle had fins on the back like the past version, The fins were changed to look sharper and had their size increased substantially. The wheels on this Batmobile were less flashy, with only a silver bat design included in the center. The rest of the tires were 22 inches and featured prototype Goodyear tires. This show replaced Batman, the animated series, and came with a new Batmobile designed by Bruce Timm. In most parts, it was a remake of the previous show and introduced new characters as well as an aesthetic outlook. The Batmobile benefited most with its sleek lines. It was designed as a 2-passenger coupe and retained the traditional features of fins and a split windshield. Jet thrusters were retained also, but came as a set of slits mounted on the rear bumper. The features were carried over from the previous TV series, making this quite a formidable Batmobile that was unchanged even in the comics. Based on the series, it took some time after the George Clooney-led Batman movie for the Batmobile to return to the big screen. When Christopher Nolan finally got a hold of the series in 2005, he put his directorial stamp on Batman with the Dark Knight trilogy. At the helm, he completely revolutionized the franchise by restarting the entire universe. Along with crafting a new Batman in Gotham City, Nolan and Nathan Crowley designed an iconic Batmobile, unlike one ever seen in the Batman universe. To design the vehicle, Crowley and Nolan stuck to their vision to make the Batmobile as realistic as possible. Like the rest of the movie, the new Batmobile was gritty and, like Nolan wanted, realistic, with the production designer going on to describe the vehicle as a combination of a tank and a Lamborghini. The functionality of the vehicle and its sleek, slightly dangerous look made it a fan favorite. Nicknamed the Tumbler, this Batmobile was used throughout the trilogy. It's an imposing vehicle, measuring in at 15 feet and 2 inches long, as well as 9 feet and 2 inch wide. Due to its size and design, the vehicle weighed over 2 tons. Other than its impressive stats, the Batmobile had the ability to eject a custom motorcycle called the Batpod. After ejecting the Batpod, the rest of the Batmobile self-destructs, helping Batman in extreme situations where he needs to get away quickly and cause a distraction. Additionally, the Dark Knight Rises also featured a tumbler in camo, rather than the classic black look. This show, launched in 2004, introduced the first compact yet powerful and rugged Batmobile. It did away with the sweeping lines, but still retained traditional aspects such as the long fins at the rear and jet exhausts. There was also a number of new tech features for the Batmobile, mostly aimed at keeping the identity of the Batman secret. The Warner Brothers animation team which designed it made all parts custom built to avoid tracking by the police. It also came with a remote homing device and could also be driven automatically. In the series, it survives harsh treatment and damage, and even featured in the film spin-off The Batman vs Dracula, coming off heavily damaged but still working. However, it gets damaged in season 3 of the series, falling off a cliff edge and being damaged beyond repair, with the older Batmobile destroyed in the previous fight with the new villain, Gearhead, introduced in season 3. The Caped Crusader needed a new and powerful car. It had to match up to Gearhead's nanotechnology and high-speed driving. It was built from the ground up using Wayne Tech experimental prototypes, though the overall design borrowed from the Batmobile in The New Adventures of Batman. It was larger though, and had an armored car windshield. The engine's exhaust port was also a massive triangle. It has all-wheel drive, and was armored with a body shell resistant to fire and impact. Other new features included forward view enhancement and an anti-theft system. After the Batman series came to an end in March 2008, it did not take long for another show to be introduced, this time as the all-new series, Batman, the Brave and the Bold, came on November 14th the same year. It differed from the show it replaced in that this was a lighter take on the Batman character, and there were different teams in each episode. There was also a need for a new Batmobile, this time designed by Ardley. It borrowed heavily from preceding Batman vehicles, including the 1966 Batmobile, from which it took the double bubble canopy. It also took from the 1940s Batmobile the fat fenders and the single roof fin. It did have its own unique features, like the ability to convert into other vehicles for use by the Batman, like the Batsub and the Batplane. This was a CGI based series which replaced Batman, the Brave and the Bold. In terms of content and style, it resembled the earlier TV series of Batman, the animated series. This means it employed a more realistic view of the Batman and made use of lesser known villains. The only thematic difference was that where the Batman was set in a modern world, While this Batmobile did have much of the gadgets and technology of previous TV series, there was a lot of emphasis on the realistic look of the Batmobile, so some fancy gadgets were done away with. The car resembled a Formula 1 car with and even had a single instead of the seat cockpit of previous cars. The cockpit canopy was also angled, and the wheels were massive with low-profile tires. With a new Batman stepping in following the end of the Dark Knight trilogy, a new Batmobile was constructed inspired by most of the preceding ones in terms of the sleek and streamlined look. It also borrowed the military aspects from the Tumbler. It was designed by production designer Patrick Tatopoulos and Dennis McCarthy. At 20 feet long and 12 feet wide, it is quite a spectacle. It came with the Gatling mounted at the front, unlike previous models, for a more fearsome look. Other weapons include harpoons, spiked coils, chemical irritants, and a charged surface along with a sonic repellent. There are also anti-ballistic systems, stealth mode ability, night vision mode, sonar and toxic scan, and its suspension can be adjusted for street and off-road driving. It echoes earlier models with its gothic but classy look.